to love and to have lost.
Ooh, YAOI review.
Everybody, it's Corbin, and today I'm here to talk to you about Lovers and Souls by, what is her name? Kano Miyamoto, sorry. Alright, I'll read the back, we shall delve into it and get into the nitty-gritty. A tragic tale of love found and lost. Shinomiya is a beautiful college art student who lacks moral common to most people. After agreeing to be a nude model for Matazuka, a photography student, who also agrees to sleep with him for money, even though he is straight. However, that started as a small taste of a forbidden, soon spiraling out of control, with Shinomiya beginning to sell his body to other guys as a prostitute in a male brothel. Can Matazuka save Shinomiya from himself? This is rated M for mature, so 18+. It's published by Duex. Now, let's delve into this. Art style. Let me open this up to a PG page. Something a little more PG than that. Something a little more PG. Okay. So that is what the art style looks like. It is a fairly appealing art style. It is a fairly more modern art style. It is something nice to look at. Now, this reminds me very much so, similar to Naruto or Bleach. It reminds me of that art style, realistically. It very much so depicts teenagers the same way. It's not a bad art style in the least. Now, art style aside, being a good art style, being something very modern, something very relevant to today's manga and yaoi readers, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, as far as art goes, it was nice, it was appealing to look at. Art aside, plotline. There are 2.5 shorts. Now I say 2.5, I'll explain in a minute. So the first title story, which is The Lovers and Souls. So Lovers is actually the first story, which consists of Lovers, and I think the second part to Lovers, or chapter 2 in Lovers is loss, or because Lover and Souls for the first one, and then Vanity, and then Sleep Vanity, and then the next one's the other two. So the first story is literally the title story. It's exactly what the back described. Now, what happens in that one is bittersweet. They find each other, they fall in love, and then the two boys, they're in love. One of them will not admit he's in love, and then tragically there's a death. One of them mourns. It becomes a very odd mourning period. The one that is in mourning ends up finding a lookalike that looks like the one that he's in love with that died, and that's kind of where it leaves off. It kind of literally just drops off with that saying, "Oh, and then we loved each other," or "I stopped obsessing over him," kind of deal. And you're like, okay. The first half of this book, literally half of the book, so that's good. The first short is half a book. It drags on and on and on and on and on. It took me about 45 minutes to read the first half of this, and it's not because it was lengthy or wordy. It's not because it was bad. It's just, it was very blasé with the way it was executed, I guess. It wasn't bad by any means. I mean, the story was interesting. The characters were interesting. There was enough development. It was just bleh. I mean, I guess that's the easiest way for me to describe it. Now, I'm still reeling off of last week's yaoi. So I'll tell you now, as far as the depression factor, or was it last week's, or it might have been 2 weeks ago, this has nothing on it. This one, as far as the depression factor goes, it's more of a you need to move on factor. Like, you get annoyed with the character that it takes him so long to recover from the death of his lover and to move on to someone else. It just takes too long. Now, the next story, which starts with Sleeping Beauty, is about two friends. Actually, it starts as a prequel to the title story. That's where the half comes from, so the 2.5 shorts. It starts as a prequel, and it follows the photographer and how he became obsessed with his model that he would hire me. Please excuse my cat. She's whining because she wants someone to pick her up and love on her, and I'm not doing that at the moment. I'm filming this. So anyway, he proceeds to, very at random, he wants the guy, but the guy's charging too much money for him to take photos of him, and he ends up seeing him asleep on a park bench at their college, and decides to take, hey, what the hey, he's asleep anyway, I'll take the photo that I wanted from him while he's asleep, and then ask for forgiveness later. And then it ends off on that note, and that's exactly where the title story picks up from, is the photo ends up winning a competition and getting published, and he says, hey, you never paid me for that picture. And that's how that goes. Then comes the next story, which is a whole nother story with different characters. Well, they're not different characters, at least not the way they're drawn. They're the same characters with the way they're drawn, but it's a different plot line and a different scenario. So the next two, they're 2 chapters. There's Eternal Moon and then Tomorrow's Sky. They're both the same story. Eternal Moon follows 2 friends. One of them comes out as gay to his friend, and the other one's straight with a female lover. And it follows the same sort of structure and storyline as the first one, except for nobody dies. The 2 friends end up hooking up because the straight one's really curious. The straight one really likes his friend, and then the straight one's the one that's pursuing the relationship, not the gay one. And they end up becoming lovers and staying together. There's a hiccup in the middle, and there is some emotional turmoil between the 2 stories, like the 2 chapters. But it is what it is. It's an okay story. But at the very end, the author says, of the YAOI, she says that, hey, you guys, there's another volume where that story continues. So I'm not sure if I have that volume. I might need to order it so I can find out what happens to those 2 guys. But it was happy. It was a nice story. Now, as far as needing this YAOI for your collection, as far as I'm concerned, I would say it's not a must-have. It really, to me, is not a must-have. Now, if you absolutely love the author or you love the art style, you may really enjoy it. If you like, I wouldn't say depressing, but sad YAOIs, you may really like this. So yeah, you guys, shoot me a like, a favorite, subscribe, and share this with a friend who likes YAOI, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.
You like what you see? Then...
subscribe!